if you've got something wonderful that you've always wanted to do, I'll find a person somewhere in the world who does just that, whose speciality is doing just that, and I'll put you together. But I'll do so in a way that creates benefits for local people and conservation. That's the whole responsible tourism dimension. That's the magical bit, actually. Because what I've discovered through my own travels is that if you treat local people well, if you're not fearful of them, which you can be around travel sometimes, then they tend to open their worlds to you, and you will get a far more in-depth, richer experience. I mean, you go to see them, it makes sense if you treat them well, they're going to give you just a little bit more perhaps. And so that's why I've always been confident that this form of tourism, call it responsible travel, responsible tourism, in the end, whether you like the ethics or not, forget about it. It's just a more enjoyable way to travel. And so that's always been a conviction right from the beginning, when it was really hard getting people to think about this. I knew in the end we'd do well because the holidays are just so incredible. So growing up in this tourist town, Bath, I'd been travelling myself to Africa, campaigning with local people. I ended up working for the Body Shop, which was an incredible business, very ethical business. And I went to Zambia. When I was on safari, the owner of the safari lodge said, lots of the people who work in the lodge live in a village nearby. And they've decided they're going to set up their own tourism venture, and they've invited you to go and stay with them. So I went to stay in this traditional African village, which is incredible. And at the end of the stay, the headman of the village came to see me. He told me that on the back of tourism, he'd built a school and he'd built a healthcare centre. And he said to me, I want you to go home, I want you to bring more tourists. And he said it was such earnestness and such trust. I couldn't bear to tell him that other than my friends, I had no way to bring more tourists. Might seem simple, but it wasn't that simple. And I went back and I thought, yeah, I think I'd like to take all the things I've learned at the Body Shop, which is about great company, activist, great brand, profits and principles together, not a choice between the two, and I try and do something in travel. And I kind of take that headman at his word. I would go back and I would bring more tourists to villages like his, not just in Zambia, but all over the world. In truth, I created a list of 152 different names for the company. Lots of them about authenticity and discovery and adventure. But in the end, the thing that I most believed in was about fairness and about travelling with respect. And so we borrowed a word that had been used in other industries, but not in tourism. We were the first to use it in tourism, and decided to nail our values and beliefs right to the top of the company through its name and called it responsible travel. To start with, people said that is an absolutely catastrophically disastrous name. Don't you realise that people just want to have a good time when they travel and they don't really care? 15 years later, people in the industry say, you're so lucky because you've got the name that describes a whole new category and way of travel. Responsible travel, a name that we started using 16, 17 years ago, has now been adopted much more widely through the industry. And so every day I get an email from a company or a business or an individual who's taking forward the challenge of responsible tourism. So it has, in a sense, become a movement for change. The really big question to ask yourself is, where's my money going? And if you book with a big multinational tour company, and guess what? They own the hotel, they own the airline, they own the ground transport that gets you to the hotel, they may even fly their own local staff. Your money, in a sense, goes to them. Whereas I think if I travel to a beautiful place that's maybe struggling, my money should go straight into the local community. When you book with a local tour operator, it's like an injection into the local economy where it's needed most. And that's where I want my money to go. Responsible travel, we're really a matchmaking service. So when a client gets in touch with us, instead of asking where do you want to go, we often ask what kind of experience do you want to have? What do you want to get from your trip? And then we'll really try and understand that. And then from then we'll have a think about the very best supplier that we might put you in touch with, or more than one. And we have 400 specialist tour operators around the world. They're one-offs. They're unusual people. They're wolf researchers who've turned to tourism, or wildlife photographers who've got into tourism. And they often are either deeply from a place, generations from a place, or they've fallen in love with a place and they simply want to share it. That, in the end, is their real passion. So they're small business, they're specialist businesses, and they care about what happens there because they're going to live there for the rest of their lives. They don't want it ruined by tourism any more than we want it ruined by tourism. And that's the type of people that we tend to work with. We've been quite outspoken as a company. I mean, when I look at tourism, there's lots of things about the industry that I think are wonderful. They really make me proud to be part of it. And there's some things that really don't. The kind of Disneyfication of culture, the trampling over local people and places, the keeping of animals in captivity just for our entertainment. Those things, they really upset me. It's not the industry that I would aspire to be part of. So when we see that, we stand up for our values, we become activists, and we campaign, and we try and create change. Trip for Trip is a new program we've launched this year. There are children who come from poor backgrounds or broken families who live very close to the sea, but yet never been. Or live very close in Africa to a game park, but never seen a lion, or a zebra, or a giraffe. There's kids we've discovered who live close to Angkor Wat. They've never been. It's a World Heritage Site. So the idea is this. We want to solve that problem. So when you book your holiday, Responsible Travel will pay £12 for a child to have that opportunity to go on that day trip. We will then send you a breakdown of films, photos, descriptions of the experiences those children have had. So you can see too what a difference it's made to their lives. And that's what we call Trip for a Trip. Your trip, their trip. One of the things you might not know about Responsible Travel is that we're also a publisher. And we've produced hundreds of guides to destinations. Two ideas at the heart of it, really. One is honesty. If I met you in a pub, I'd say, Beth, you should go there, but you really shouldn't go there. I think your travel guide should give you that level of honesty. And the second level of honesty is I want to tell you the best places and extraordinary experiences and off the beaten track. But I also want you to understand about how you can be a responsible tourist, how your holiday can make a real difference locally. So that's the kind of ideas for hundreds of destination guides. So, let's all be honest with ourselves about our holidays. I've spoken a lot about the good they do in tourism destinations, but we also should be honest that they cause a lot of damage too, through global warming and carbon emissions. And that's a very uncomfortable position to be in. But I'm optimistic about the future and technology, and I think in the same way we have electric cars and renewable energy powering our homes, that with the right investment in the future, aviation too could become a more environmentally friendly. Tourism can be really, really great. I think as an industry it has an enormous potential to change the world. And I think you as a tourist, every one of us as a tourist, is a small part of that. You bring people together, can fund development, fund conservation, build bridges between different races and religions, people from different backgrounds. What a fantastic industry to be in. And what a fantastic opportunity for every tourist.
What?